The Virtual World Society. Join us in building better realities together.
Go. Hello, and thank you for coming to the Virtual World Society's Fireside Chat. I am Dr. Angelina Dayton, the Executive Director of the Virtual World Society. Our mission is to help bring about good in the world through emerging tech, and we are so grateful that you are here today. A big thanks to our events production team, Laurel Van Fossen, and the educators in VR team. We host these events normally monthly. We'll have another one next month, and then we'll have a winter break with Tom Furness, the grandfather of virtual reality, a founder and chairman of our board. So I'm going to hand it over now to Tom, who will do introductions of our special guests today. Tom?
Oh, thank you, Angelina, as always. And thank you, Laurel, up in the balcony. We appreciate all that the educators in VR does for us. Now, we really have a special treat to kick off this autumn firing of our fireplace for our fireside chat with Nathan Pettyjohn. This is one busy guy, and he is amazing. He is the president, the founder and president of the largest VRARA trade organization in the world. And it is amazing. And we're just so honored, Nathan, to have you with us. Not only that, Nathan has his fingers in a bunch of pies. And we'll be hearing more about that as we go along, but welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Tom.
Being with us.
It's an absolute honor to be here with you, and appreciate every minute I get to spend talking to you. So thank you.
Well, bless your heart, Nathan. Well, Nathan has a history at working in the computing industry for some time, and we want to delve into that, if you don't mind, to begin with. Starting at sort of the beginning, you were born in Missouri. Springfield, Missouri, I believe. Is that right?
We're going all the way back.
We're going back. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and what was it like growing up as a kid in Missouri, and what were you like as a kid?
Yeah. Well, I can explain that. I'll say I grew up in Missouri. Still have an affection for the state and the Midwest, but I live in Silicon Valley now, which I love. Mm-hmm. The excitement. It's like the Hollywood for tech, of course, and but yeah, I appreciate the question. And kind of growing up as a child, I was always entrepreneur, minded. And there's a story that when I was 5 years old, one time, I got this bright idea that, when my parents, when you draw pictures and your parents and your friends are like, oh, that's really nice. And I think my dad or somebody said, oh, I'd even pay you $1 for that. And I said, really? So I went into my room. I drew about 5 pictures, and I started going around to the neighbors. And I wrote on the bottom, like, you pay $1. I was like, this one looks nicer. You pay $2. And I think they felt sorry for me, but they did it.
Those probably are worth a fortune now if they kept them.
Oh, that's nice. But I like to, that literally, I never in my life have forgotten that feeling of just when you make something and somebody's willing to pay you for it and you feel like honored. And it was just like, wow, you could really do this? Like, you could just make something and people will give you something for it, And I think, as we look at everything we do in our lives, right? Like, we all want to be appreciated for it. We all need to just kind of sometimes step back and be like that naive child that's not afraid to hear no, or acts like they don't care if they hear no, and go out there and try something. And so, I kind of fast forward to where we are now, the association, we're just really trying to create opportunities for people. And I was actually running a software company in 2015. We were doing indoor mapping and navigation in retail stores. So think of it like Google Maps for inside of a store, only we could allow you to search for any product and you map it. We got some attention from Google and started doing augmented reality navigation with Project Tango, if people remember that.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, like Best Buy was asking us, like, hey, can you create digital assets for us of all of our products? And I'm like, no, we don't do that, but I'll try to find somebody for you. I went hunting, and somebody in Google was like, oh, there's this company in Singapore that you might try. And I'm like, really? Like, that's all you know of is one company in Singapore? I mean, fine. But I said, where do I get connected in the industry? And they're like, there's not really a place right now. And so I said, okay, let's do it, because I needed help. And I realized, like, I try to kind of think about that all the time, is like, we all need help connecting, being more efficient, growing our business, seeing opportunity. And so that's what we try to do every day.
So that is that the jump? Is that the jump that got you into? Well, let's talk about how in the world does this connect with AR and VR? I mean, I understand about the being able to visualize the products and things like that, but there's a big jump there that I'd like to hear about.
Oh yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I did jump, from 5 years old to I'm now 44. But yeah, so I could kind of explain it, like, I had worked up in New York City at a big ad agency, moved back to the Midwest, and I thought I'd get into advertising, which I loved and had a passion for. And this kind of translates into how I got into all this. But I ended up getting into sales, and I was doing some sales jobs that, like, I thought, like, hey, this is yucky, like, I'm going door to door. And but I learned a lot about, like, the methodologies. And I actually, if you guys remember the Yellow Pages, anybody out there still? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Grew up with the Yellow Pages. For a time being, I sold Yellow Page advertising, which I thought at the time was kind of like the scum of the earth kind of thing you could do. But they had a really, really impressive training program, and it really did work for people. I mean, and so translate forward, that was the original direct response marketing that we now use every day on Google. We search for something, and there's the answer. And if we want to buy something, like, it comes up. Same with the Yellow Pages, you look for something. Oh, here we go. That's what I need. Who's got the prettiest ad? They look good. I'll go for them. So I was then selling into Lowe's Home Improvement. And if anybody shopped in a Lowe's Home Improvement or a Home Depot and had trouble finding something, raise your hand. And Tim, I don't see you raising your hand, but I know you've been in that situation, probably. Thanks. Appreciate you nodding your head. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I just said, hey, what if you could do this on a phone? Like, hey, I'm searching for a product. It tells me where it is, and then I market and recommend a brand. Let's do that inside of a store. And again, kind of naive enough to think, okay, let's just go build it. It was really challenging getting retailers' attentions. But we ended up getting into 16,000 retail stores. And we had some really big names. Walgreens, we were in all 8,000 of their locations. And Dick's Sporting Goods, Barnes & Noble, many different grocery chains in US and Europe.
About when was this, Nathan?
Well, I started the company in 2008. And then, so it was probably a couple of years until we really started getting traction. And as we started scaling and putting it on mobile phones, there was a lot of direct response, marketing that we did. And then we raised venture capital funding and announced like a $7 million capital raise. And then, Google Ventures contacted us and said, hey, we really like this. Could we get involved in your round? And it's like, where were you 2 weeks ago? So, but they were a really nice team. And they said, hey, we've got a kind of a project now that we're working on. This was like even before they called it Project Tango. And they said, we can locate a mobile phone within 10 centimeters of accuracy inside of a store. And we want to use that and build an augmented reality experience where you can walk through the store and have advertising and recommendations pop up. And they were, you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, that could be obnoxious. But their team really was focused on an elegant user experience. And so we worked with them and had kind of a contract to take data we had from retailers and pull it into the AR system. And we did like in-store tests with a lot of shoppers, and we were finding kind of the sweet spot of the experience. And it is jaw-dropping. It was. And there's still some videos out there on YouTube, I think, of what we were doing. And and that's kind of how I got into augmented reality. And then, you know, of course, like everybody, you try VR once and you're hooked. And, you know, and I just, I was living in St. Louis, Missouri at the time. And I remember thinking like, hey, you know, St. Louis needs like a meetup group. And then I was like, well, wait a second. I've been a part of another industry trade group in another industry. It was called the Location-Based Marketing Association, LBMA. Still exists today. But I really respected the founder, asked him to be an advisor and help me kind of guide me launch another association at a global level. And so now we have like 60 chapters around the world and about 30 industry committees. And yeah,
it's amazing. This is an amazing story. And especially your growth from from being a young entrepreneur to actually seeing opportunities and then jumping into them and building what is needed for that. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to the VRARA. And this is huge in terms of your reach. We see, here we see your members and sponsors, and of course you have your partners like the Virtual World Society. But back up a little bit to, I think it was a slide before, Laurel, where we had some of the numbers there. 60,000 professionals, 4,400 organizations. This is a pretty amazing. What you've been able to build, and obviously you haven't done it all by yourself. You brought together a team and come up with a formula that provides the revenues that you need to do this at this scale. What was it like going along that trip? What were the sort of the lessons learned?
Yeah. Well, I learned lessons, you know, from this advisor, and he kind of helped give me the playbook that had worked for their organization. But we really tried to create an ecosystem that kind of empowers other people to become thought leaders, because there's so many amazing thought leaders in this industry, and partners, you know, and take your organization, for example, right? So we decided, hey, we need local chapters all over the world where people can come and get together. And they have a chapter president that kind of helps organize that. And we knew that, you know, it takes a little funding to actually have people dedicated and pull this off. So we're supported primarily by annual membership fees. And we kind of just listened to the community and adapted over time. And we started off, I think, with like 2 membership categories, and then some people said, hey, that's too expensive. And so we said, okay, well, what do you need? Right. And, you know, we would have like some universities, then we'd have small colleges, then we'd have small startups that maybe they had secured 5 million in funding. Then we had other ones that were 2 guys in a garage. Right. And then we had then we had people who were just like, I'm just a person. I want to get involved. And so we had, you know, we have kind of ways for people to get involved for free. We have like moderate membership fees for individuals, and we find people are more committed if they invest in it, and we try to give value. On the flip side, we had big corporation going like, hey, this is like such a small number, like it's not even worth it for me to put through our system. And you know, and then you find out like some of these big associations, they're spending tens up to $100,000 a year to be a part of this, of organizations that really help them. So we ended up, I think we have like 8 or 9 different versions, categories of memberships. Then we started hearing people, you know, like I remember in London, we had an active chapter, but then we had people saying, hey, I'm coming to these and I'm in healthcare and I don't really see many healthcare companies. So is there a way I could get tapped in? And it's like, well, why don't we start a committee on healthcare? And then as people just started requesting, we then all of a sudden got so many people saying, I want to be the chairperson of this committee. And then we had to create a committee to decide who was the committee chair.
Right.
And so now we have, I think, 25 or so industry committees that meet regularly. And, you know, so there's vertical focus, there's geography focus. Then we knew we needed reports and, you know, just ways for people to access. Then we started doing events. kind of fell into it. And I was like, well, hey, there's a lot of great events out there. Does the industry really need another one? And people just kept asking. They're like, you have to do a bigger event. Why are you not doing this? And it's like, okay. So it kind of fell into our laps. There was an event in Vancouver that was being run by a software company called CRV. Do you remember that? Consumer VR? And the software company just said, hey, this has gotten out of hand. We don't want to do it. We're just going to shut it down. And the event producer came to me and said, hey, you know anyone who would take this event? Because otherwise it's just going to shut down, and it's really sad. So we decided to take it on and rebrand it. It was called the VRARA Global Summit at the time. Had like 600 people attend the first time, and then it was like 1,000 the next year. Then we rebranded to Immerse Global Summit to be a little bit more encompassing. Then the pandemic happened, and we said, okay, we got to do a virtual event. And we were crazy enough to go, like, we're going to do 3 days. Like, it's going to cover Asia Pacific time zones, North America, Europe. Just totally exhausted our team. We ended up having 11,000 people join over a 3-day period. We even were running it on a program you might have heard of, some of you, called Hopin. And we were one of their early customers. And like, I think within the first 30 minutes, we had like 1,500 people join. And then over the next hour, there were like 3,000 or 4,000 people literally at one time. And I'm looking at the screen, and all of a sudden I see it go from like 3,000 people to like 1,300 instantly. And we ended up crashing Hopin's servers in Southeast United States. So like I had people in Florida messaging me, what happened? I just got kicked out. You know, they had it back up within about 20 minutes, but it's kind of a wild ride, and it's hard to get that many people on a virtual event now, but in the pandemic, it worked.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
So,
Well, it reminds me a lot of the early days in the educators in VR, and I mean, it was one of those happenings that I remember. If you don't mind me taking a few minutes to talk about this story, this was just before the pandemic, and Laurel and Daniel DeBossi Bryant and approached me and said, that they wanted to do this little conference for educators and VR applications and things like that. And I said, I think, did they ask me if you think it'd be a good idea? And I thought, well, yeah, that's a good idea. And we think it's going to be really small. It's going to be about maybe a day or a day and a half, something like that. And we maybe have 20 speakers we invite in and things like that. And I said, well, yeah, that'd be good. And they asked me for some suggestions of people and things like that. And asked me if I'd be willing to do a keynote for this. And again, this was in February 19? Was it 19 or 20? I can't remember. One of those just before the pandemic.
2020.
2020. That's right. L'Oreal is there. That's the voice from heaven. It's coming in. And so I was. But a few weeks later, they called me and said, "Tom, it's going to be a little different than what we thought. Remember we said it was going to be about a day and a half. Well, actually, instead of 20 speakers, we have what was it? 170. 170 speakers, and 153 events, and that it was not going to be a day and a half. It was going to be for, like 4 or 5 days. And 6 days, 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. And
yeah.
It was one of these things, back to what you were saying. What?
6,000 attendees.
Yeah.
In VR.
Congratulations.
In VR. Yeah. When you
all
in
of
VR. You're the VR Association. We want you to do an event in VR.
I know. That's amazing.
Well, I think the bottom line in all of this was that what we found was we tapped something. And these were people we never would have met around never would have met. And they came from everywhere. Every continent was represented, even Antarctica. And I mean, it just blew us away saying, what has happening? There's a passion for this. This gives people a chance to go places without moving their atoms to get there, and to be there and to make connection. This is where I actually met Angelina. Where's Angelina? Where'd Angelina go? She's here somewhere.
I'm back here.
There she is.
I'm back here.
She's back in the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Angelina, who's now the executive director,
Yeah.
you better mute
We
yourself.
met.
Mute yourself, Angelina. Angelina, who's now the executive director of the Virtual World Society, I met her there at that conference. I backstage after I gave my first talk, my keynote, and thanks for Laurel and Daniel and Don and all that team that, like you said, it's this team that puts us together, and then there's a happening. It's sort of like Woodstock all over again. And we're sort of hippies anyway. So, I mean, we're nerdy hippies kind of thing. So this is a phenomenon that is occurring, and you have done a lot to promote this. You don't have a particular axe to grind. I mean, you aren't representing one company. You are representing all the companies and the people and universities and people like that as well. Now, I'm going to ask you a question about...
I did work at Lenovo for about 4 years, running the global go-to-market for XR. But that was a really open kind of ecosystem too, and we were partnering with a bunch of ISVs. And about a year ago, I left there to kind of focus in fully on the association. I mean, it had gotten so big, and we have a team of people. But I was to that point you made. I was like, there were so many cool things I wanted to be a part of, and I just really couldn't with the corporate handcuffs. And Lenovo's a fantastic company, great people, so nothing bad to say about it at all. I just like the pool just became so strong. I was like, oh my gosh, I could be part of so many fun things, and I'm kind of living that out now. And I do help some companies. I got a handful that I help with consulting and strategy and stuff with go to market. But it's really fun being a part of the community in general.
Well, this is, when you talk about the VRARA, it is a part of your immersive global network, your immersive network, right? And tell us about that. How does that all fit together?
Well, yeah. So I kind of, like when I left Lenovo, I said, I saw that there's a lot of these great tech companies, but one of the things that every company needed help with is more sales and more marketing. And so I went and I had been training on a program, one of the respected of the world, run by, there's a gentleman named Grant Cardone, and he's became a self-made billionaire, has a big like real estate empire, but does, I think, like 150 million in sales a year in training programs on sales and marketing. And I went through those programs and just really found them to be helpful. And then I became kind of licensed to go out and teach other people those things. So what happened is, though, I started promoting that. And my goal was like, hey, I want to help like literally, and I know it sounds audacious, but 100 million people. I said, and if I think that way, it's going to help me think differently. And I just like helping impact a lot of people. And so I said, let me go out there and start marketing the sales and marketing training, because everybody that I saw in the VRARA industry, there's like hardly a company out there that wouldn't say like, yeah, we could do a little better in sales and marketing.
Right.
But what happened is I started getting, then people said, well, hey, I actually just really need help with your network and your connections. Like I need a partnership with AWS, or I need a partnership with Microsoft, and you kind of know all these people. Could you help connect me? And it's like, well, I'm not really thinking about doing that right now. And after, the fifth company or so said, hey, I really could use this help. I said, okay, let's dive into this right now. When you're hearing it over and over. So, but the Immerse Growth Network was kind of designed to be like a way to help companies grow. And we started realizing that immersive tech is not just its own little bubble. all of us here and some of the conferences we go to, there's a lot of patting on the back of friends, but we're like, hey, this is going to be a part of everything. I mean, you name it, any industry out there. And so let's like try to do something that helps everybody. And then we'll leverage kind of what we've built in immersive tech, and we'll help that grow into every industry out there. And we can kind of build kind of a consulting ecosystem, because the association, it's there, it's a community, but then some people like say, hey, I want to go really deep. I really need help. And like, I need a team of people. I mean, it's why Accenture and Deloitte, built multi-billion-dollar consulting businesses. So we said, hey, let's try to do this in the immersive tech space, and then we'll branch out and we'll start seeing all that tech get implemented everywhere else. So that's kind of why we started it, and it's like a sister company to the VRARA Association, and it's growing, and it's again, like, I've got to figure out now how to like tap the community and build like a network of people, probably many people in the audience who are brilliant experts in their area of field that can help go out and implement this technology with other companies. So does that make sense? Or
it does. It does. And no, I think I feel the heart in what you're trying to do. And as a I think all of us agree that it's so important for us to be working together to grow this industry, because the bottom line really is the install base. Unless we get the technology out there where people like you who and others who have had put the headset on for the first time and begin to realize the power of this technology. And there is a barrier entry. And the barrier not only is cost, but it's sort of looked upon as still a novelty and a game kind of thing, and not realizing the incredible power in terms of moving minds that this does. And to some extent, this is, of course, what we're trying to do in the Virtual World Society. We're trying to take the high road in terms of looking at the sort of long-term implications of this and how we guide the development of the technology for lifting humanity. For the real capacity it could be, rather than just games of destruction and violence. And so, I mean, that's what we're still going to be up against, and that's going to be there. But once we find, and by the way, I think the charge is going to be led by enterprise. I do believe that once we see all of these applications in medicine and in education, dentistry, and enterprise design, all of these areas that have can greatly need this kind of ability to unlock our intelligence and link our minds together. And so that's sort of where we stand in the Virtual World Society. We're a nonprofit. And it's a struggle these days as a nonprofit to get that critical mass, which lets you really do what you and have your own heart to do. But what kind of what do you see as what would be an ideal role for the Virtual World Society, and perhaps the ideal role for relationship with the VRARA and the Virtual World Society?
Yeah. Well, I think you've got a great role already. I mean, it's a very well-respected organization, you and the whole team. So congratulations on that. It's nice of you to ask me, but I think you've got a lot figured out already. But yeah, I think we can always do more. And I'm like probably everybody here, right? Really, heartfelt in what your mission is. And so I think, one thing is that we're already starting to do is, right, we're kind of partnering up with things like this, and we haven't really gotten into the event that's taking place in Orlando in a few weeks. Yes. But we've got the Meta Center Global Week, which is taking place in Orlando. If any of you aren't familiar, you ought to check it out. Virtual World Society is going to be there. We're doing kind of a very small executive roundtable breakfast, and we did one of these at AWE, which you were there, and really coming together and saying like, hey, what are the biggest challenges in the industry, but how do we solve them? And I think, our organizations can work together more closely on that. And, we, about a year ago, like, we kind of put forth this initiative, kind of an XR for good initiative, but I think we probably need help, because people like yourselves probably know a little bit better how to accomplish that. But the idea was, it was kind of like put on me because, like, I have 4 children, and their ages 12 through 18, and went through the pandemic. Like many of you who maybe have children, like they went through a really challenging time socially. And, a lot of social anxiety built up, and, their whole interaction in very formative years is like just complete digital. And it's very influential, right? It's so immersive. It's so believable. And so I was like, I need to try to commit myself to doing something beyond what I do every day for work, in this space. And I was like, maybe there's something we can do to help inspire people to, like, make a pledge. Doesn't have to be monetary, but, like, just tell the world, like, hey, I am doing something more, and not just going to work every day and building stuff and making money. Like, I will commit, and doing it in this industry. So, I think that's one way that we could work with you to kind of promote that idea and that concept more. Because if we all jump in and do it, like, you can really move mountains, But if just one of us does it, yes, of course it means something, but it's an uphill battle.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that. Well, consider this almost a handshake. We're going to do this. We're going to do this to where we're working together, and the XR for good. I agree. It makes a lot of sense to do that. Let's talk a little bit more about this event coming up. This is a big deal. And there's a lot going on in Orlando. It's sort of, up to this point in time, it's sort of been West Coast kind of stuff, right? West Coast has been sort of the hub of a lot of the, especially industry side of things. But Orlando is the home of Disney World. And certainly Disney World has been a place where a lot of innovation has taken place in terms of not only entertainment, but this whole idea of going to a place that is magical, and that you never forget it. And it's certainly been a big part of my life, and with my daughters and my wife, and so. But also, Orlando is this amazing hub for military training technology. And the University of Central Florida is there. University of Central Florida has an amazing simulation institute. And so there's a lot going on in that area in Central Florida. And so you have chosen that sort of to grow that piece of it, the iTech conference, the training conference that has been happening there over many years, and now that you're actually enlarging the scope of it. Tell us a little about what you like to see, what you are planning to see at this event.
Yeah, well, give a little context so everybody kind of understands the storyline here. But we held a conference in Miami, Florida last year, and Miami was really fun and great. A lot of distractions in Miami, though, I will say, to go into a conference, and we'd find people like out at the pool or out at the beach when they should have been in the conference room, literally. And people admitted to it, like, hey, I took half a day, I just couldn't resist, Anyway, the city of Orlando really wanted to bring the conference there. The Orlando Economic Partnership was really committed, and there's a gentleman named David Adelson. He was the CIO of Economic Partnership in Orlando. Well, he was trying to get a lot done, and a little bit of, it's a little more challenging in a government-led organization. So they spun off and did this entity called Innovate Orlando. And he said, hey, I want to make Orlando like the hub of XR, and I know some people don't like the word metaverse, but the time. It was hot, and he said, I want to become like the center of this. And like, we have the resources, and we have this amazing mix of entertainment and enterprise. And if you'll bring this conference here, we'll pull together another conference called Synapse that brings all kinds of innovative tech companies that are beyond immersive tech. And he's like, but it's a perfect blend because it's not just a bunch of people patting each other on the back. It's like, we have major like Duke Energy and big companies that are in that sector that are sponsors, and they're coming and they're looking for technology. So anyway, we jumped in and said, okay, let's do it. But yeah, this conference, it's 3 days, October 17th through 19th. The website's metacenterglobal.com. And I think, thanks for pulling up this slide here. There's a code here. If anybody wants to go, it'll give you 20% off, Virtual World Society code, VWS 2023. That'll get you 20% off any of the ticket types there. But, I think this is going to be unique. We tried to, the vision long-term is to create like South by Southeast. There's South by Southwest. And David kind of says this internally. He's like, let's create South by Southeast. It's going to be, we just want people coming. We want to impact every industry we can. So not only are there, some amazing keynotes. Meta is actually a platinum sponsor and going to be keynoting. We have Google Cloud team that came in, and I think they're bringing under their wing Magic Leap team, and and the list goes on. But a lot of immersive tech companies, a lot of just innovative tech overall, and a lot of industry and entertainment companies. So there's AWS is coming, Lockheed Martin. So you get a really good mix of knowledge share. Great networking. We're trying to create like opportunities for people to really network. So we've got like this speed. People like to call it speed dating. It's really speed networking. But it's been pretty fantastic in the past. Like we line up a table, and like literally 200 or 300 people will come in, because we're given a couple wine and beer. That always attracts. But you sit across the table, and you have 2 minutes to explain what you do to each other. And then there's a whistle that blows, and then everybody shifts for another 2 minutes. And boom, boom, boom. And like, you don't know who you're going to meet, but sometimes it's like, okay, nice meeting in person, but nothing there. And then sometimes you're like, whoa, like a startup will be like, I just sat down with like the CIO of Ford Motor Company. I would have never gotten that opportunity. So it's really cool. It's really fun. There's nightlife activity. There's a DJ concert. If you get VIP tickets, you're also getting VIP access to the DJ concert called Lost Frequencies. And
right.
I got to tell you, I didn't know who Lost Frequencies was, and then I went and I searched it, and I was like, oh, I've heard like a dozen of these songs. He does remixes with Miley Cyrus and all kinds of major. So the point is, great learning, great networking, and fun, because we all build relationships when we're doing fun things together, and you build trust. And so that's part of business, I think.
And you never forget it,
gives you an excuse to have a party too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, these occasions when you are together, I mean, just like the AWE, you remember those times. You remember those times, and you remember the people. You remember the setting because you're in a place. And Zoom can't do that. Zoom doesn't do that, but VR can do that, and which is in many cases the advantage of the VR in this case is that you don't have to move your atoms, to be able to pull it off. So you can get people who probably couldn't afford to go to a conference like this to get there. But on the other hand, there's nothing like pressing the flesh. Nothing is going to take the place of that. And have a physical gathering, and I don't think it's going to go away. And and this is I think a great venue for it, a great place. There's a lot of things going on there. let's face it, there is a diaspora from Silicon Valley. I mean, there's people moving out, even Hollywood. Hollywood is what Hollywood used to be, and now we see emerging centers like Phoenix, who says, okay, they're really going to be the new Hollywood, and now Austin, Texas, is saying they're going to be the new Silicon Valley, and so. That doesn't mean the old Silicon Valley goes away, but it means that it's not all concentrated in one place. Yeah. So I think this idea of a South by Southeast is a good idea, because that raises it from being a tech type thing to being more, gets in more into the fine arts, the arts and the aesthetic things that we long for and appreciate. Well, I'm looking at time, and go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, just real quick, I was going to say we have another partner called BitBasel, and they're going to have kind of an NFT art gallery as well. So we are trying to bring some of the arts. They're kind of a blend into like this art and NFTs, and we have several other things as well. But yeah, we're trying to make sure that this is a really nice mix, because ultimately that's how we inspire creativity and innovation, is stepping out of our normal comfort zone, seeing something else and going, oh, I could take that idea and apply it to what I'm doing. So that's what we're trying to do.
So tell me, Nathan, are you a good enough manager to where you don't have to worry about any of this, about this big event, and you just get to go there and play and have fun, and you don't have anything, no pressure, that kind of thing?
Oh man, I wish, the team's great. And I'm kind of helping at arm's length, letting people do. I try to, bring in good people and let them do what they do, but help as I need to. And so, yeah, there's always anxiety and like, is this getting done? Is that getting done? And and everybody waits till last minute, so
drives you nuts.
The speakers, and I'm guilty of it today. And it's like, I should have had these slides last week, and it came in this morning. So, and we're dealing with it too. People are speakers. Are, hey, when do I speak? And it's like, oh yeah, a month ago we had this planned.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
It'll be fun, and this enormous planning. How many people do you plan to have there? Do you think will be attending?
I mean, I estimate anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000, because we always have these last 2 weeks surge, and I think like in Miami, we sold half of our tickets in the 2 weeks before the event. So, so we'll see.
Well,
somewhere in between there.
On that. Yeah, best wishes on that. And again, the VWS team will be there to help with this roundtable. And we had such a good time at the other roundtable. That's when I first met you, actually, the roundtable at AWE. And I don't know what was your impression of that event, that roundtable?
It was great.
What was done?
It was really, really good. I think people had a lot of like heartfelt ideas, and it was great to have just, some of the industry thought leaders kind of sitting around a table and hearing each other speak. And, like I had a comment that I made, and I remember Hugo Swart, the VP of Qualcomm, came up to me afterwards. He's like, man, what you said really, really spoke to me. It meant a lot. And I hadn't really thought about that in the past. And I had the same situation with a couple other people. And so you create with what you're doing there. It just, it's a different type of like openness where people just kind of say like, hey, every day we're out there talking the good stuff. Like, let's just talk about what's wrong here and let's try to fix it. Yeah. And so thank you for doing that. It's needed.
Well, I was surprised too by the feedback that I got, that a lot of the same people you're talking about came up and said, this was wonderful. We never get a chance to do this. Right. We're on stage, we're representing our company or representing what we're trying to do, but we never get a chance to really open up and just have an informal chat, like with friends and almost with family, where we're following the Chatham House rules. There's no attribution to anybody, so you can say what you and then everyone takes away from that what they've learned and the connections they made and things like that. Yeah. And
The only thing I can say is it needs to be longer. Like we need like a full day or 2 day retreat to do that. You know?
Yeah. Okay, we'll be thinking about that. Let's think about that. Okay,
Okay.
for the next go around, let's think about a retreat that would do that. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I want to make sure we have time for interaction with the audience. And do you have a question you'd like to ask them first before they ask you?
Oh, wow. I mean, maybe just like if anybody has any like really great initiative, like, you know, kind of a giving back initiative with the theme of Virtual World Society, if anybody has anything that they're aware of, a cause or something that we should pay attention to, that'd be great.
Okay. Laurel, you want to? And Laurel, you want to, or Angelina?
I can.
Okay.
All right. So for the question and answer, if you unmute yourself and keep your questions kind of brief, we're almost out of time now. Did somebody have a question? You can unmute yourself to make a comment or a question. Do we have?
Okay.
We have Charlene. Did you raise your? Was it Charlene or Rob who raised their hand over here? Rob.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to unmute. You should have the ability to unmute now. Well, you know, it's not a real VR event if there's not a technical difficulty. Let me see if I can help you with that, Rob. Okay, I'm going to try and unmute you from my extra special tricks over here. Now try, Rob. There you go.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, Nathan.
Whoops.
Hey, Rob.
Now he's gone. He's muted again.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Roberto here from Seattle, the VRARA chapter actually of the VRARA. And one thing that I have been doing actually with Tron, you must be very familiar with Tron, Tom, is just trying to get together. Like I've been trying to get in close communication with him. He manages what I consider the Facebook channel for the VR AR community here in Seattle, right? And I always reach out to him. So if we are able to replicate that around the country, right, with VWS and VRARA chapters, I think that would open up the conversation that you guys were talking about. It's very different to speak with Tron over Zoom than when I met him in person in the meetups that we've been having this year, right? So I love that part, and I really have been appreciating a lot the relationship that I've been developing with Tron. So that's one example that I wanted to mention since you guys touched on the topic. So thanks so much, Nathan, for bringing that up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Rob.
Very good.
Let's tap
Rob,
into
and
that.
just to follow up with that, Tron Nielsen was actually one of my former PhD students, and he is also on the board of the Virtual World Society and has been working on some amazing events and meetup events, including the whole hackathon community that has evolved in Seattle. One of the hackathons a few years ago, we had 350 hackers that came and showed up for this. And so anyhow, these kind of events are wonderful. But thanks for that, Rob. Other questions or comments?
More questions and comments if you want to raise your hand either virtually or signal it in some way. And also, I'd just like to comment, Tron's one of my most favorite people too. He's very popular. So do we have somebody else on the other side of the room? Yes, go on. Go ahead.
Is it me?
No.
Yes, it's
Mitch. It's Mitch.
Good. Sorry. Sometimes when you're on the PC, you can't tell if you've got your hand up or not. Hey, Nathan and Tom, thanks very much. That was pretty fun conversation. And I've actually listened to your VRARA podcast a long time. And, you know, we run a sort of a what I would call a suburban XR business in Melbourne, right? And this is kind of where my question's heading. You know, as I'm listening to the podcast, I would hear all these different businesses being interviewed. And, you know, I remember a guy who was doing XR device management. I remember a guy who was doing 360 site remote visits for industrial facilities, and then another guy who was doing real estate VR. And I'm thinking, this is really something that, you know, I can grab onto. And we decided to make a business ourselves, and we do incursions into schools. We do VR incursions into schools, right? Mm-hmm. But my question really is about, you know, you have a lot of members, and I'm interested to know, is there a kind of a strata of businesses now that you might think of as just suburban businesses, which aren't, you know, mid-tier, larger businesses? And do you see the growth of that across the US, across Europe?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it's growing the most, but I just feel like there's companies that, you know, are everywhere. There's brilliance everywhere, and so, you know, when we were early on and had like only a handful of chapters, some companies would be like, oh well, you know, we're like in you know, I mean, we had companies in Alabama or Louisiana, right? And they'd be like, it's not really a big tech hub down here, but so I don't know if I should get involved. And it's like, no, you should. And and so yeah, from all over the place and almost every industry you can think of, and you know, the growth is just happening everywhere globally. I mean, obviously, you know, it's North America and Western Europe are probably where we see the most activity, but of course, Asia Pacific and, you know, amazing stuff that's happening down in Australia too. I'm familiar with. So congrats and thanks for all that you do there. I'd love to learn more about it too, Mitch. So feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn or something, and happy to help however I can.
Yeah, we just found that it was a case of, you know, our MO is like, we got to take this out to the people. And I'm curious to know, you know, I've made a lot of connections obviously through VR, and I'm in the global south. I mean, you can't get much more global south than Melbourne in Australia in terms of major cities. Maybe Chile, I think, has a few more. Argentina probably has a few more southernmost cities.
We have members in Chile. I know.
Yeah. Well, I think they actually have got a chapter here as well. I haven't properly hooked up with them, but you know, there is that sort of connective tissue that you need to tap into, and so one of these days I'll meet you in the US and Orlando, I'm sure. But until then, it's nice to meet you in VR.
Thank you. You as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Mitch, just one little thing. If you have people that are excited about what you're doing, then you just start. Just start as Nathan mentioned. Start with just a little meetup, and you can get it out there, announced in the local community bulletin board, and just grow it that way organically. And you might be surprised what happens. And then, of course, if you tap the VRARA chapter there, they may be able to help. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay. Great.
Did we want to get one more question in before we did closing slides?
No. Jimmy?
Jimmy?
Yeah.
So you're going to try to unmute, and I will try to help you behind the scene.
Okay, I think that should get it. It's follow on maybe on the question previously about, again, a virtual world society, a AR, VR, a association, and an event like this. I'm wondering if you have the ability, what capabilities you have for virtual participation in an event, and if you're able to, you know, even AWE and things like that. You would think that there's a certain possibility to dog food in the industry and lead by example of actually making remote participation a first-class citizen in attendance. And I'm wondering if you've looked at any of that?
Well, I would say like kudos to Tom and team for hosting these and Engage. Yeah, we're actually gonna well, one, we're gonna try to stream the main stage speakers at the conference in Orlando. I think all the technicalities literally just got finalized. We're also going to be there's kind of an announcement that's going to be made there. There's a company called MetaCities that has partnered up with Viveverse, and they're on this mission to go out and kind of create local communities in virtual worlds that people can come and visit, and working with city municipalities. So I don't want to like let too much of the cat out of the bag, but the city of Orlando has taken a step in that direction to kind of work and build that. And we are working on a plan that like all of our chapters can actually tap in to virtual, VR experiences like this. The only challenge that we've had in the past, and part of it is like there's maybe a dozen great social environments like Engage that you can go to, and we were grappling with like, hey, do we show too much favoritism if we pick one, and then the others who are also members would be upset, and so we tried to balance that, and I don't know how to solve it really. If anybody has,
that's a tough one
because it's also hard to like try to jump from one to the other all the time, and so yeah, we're having those discussions, and but I appreciate you bringing that up, Jimmy, and I also like your name. I think we should all have Sixtoff after our name.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's all about the degrees of freedom.
That's right.
I love it.
Or maybe 7 or 8. That's great.
More the merrier.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see Tom. You'd be in Ninedorf.
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's Ninedorf. I'll mention that to my wife. That means maybe that means I can do the do list without having to be there.
That's quantum.
The honeydew. It's quantum. Yeah. That's right. Okay. You can tell us a bunch of nerds, right?
Yeah.
But we have a good time. We're a fun-loving nerds, set of nerds. It looks like the time is, it's about there. Let's have one sum up here about what you see. And then we have some announcements. Angelina, we have announcements. Where's Angelina? Oh, there's
right
Angelina.
Is my
okay, we have some announcements. Yeah, it's okay. And then we have some announcements of Virtual World Society. Okay.
So
No, we have one more thing from Angelina. We have one more thing from Nathan. I want him to give just a little capsule here for us, a thought piece about where we're going from here.
Put me on the spot, but I'll get 60 seconds. Okay, so like I gave this presentation in Portugal at one of our conferences, and I called it "Take the Green Pill." And if you've ever seen The Matrix, take the red or the blue pill, right? You go down the rabbit hole, and all you do is focus on negativity, and this is bad. Or you take the blue pill, and you just you're in bliss, and you're oblivious to anything negative. And I said, let's meet in the middle and take the green pill, because it's okay to be successful and build businesses and earn money, but it's also not okay to do it without remembering that bad things can come from what we build. And so like, let's all like remember to take the green pill, which means go prosper, but also try to do something to give back, and do one, try to commit to picking one thing that you can do to give back, this year, and then let people know about it. And don't be ashamed, don't be ashamed, because you'll probably get a dozen people that want to follow in your footsteps and help you too. So take the green pill.
Good on you, Nathan.
That would be
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
And it should be purple, by the way. I know. Purple. Blend too, but green. Yeah. But green's positive color, so.
Yeah. So you see up here on the slide that we have. Maybe we'll have some more purple pills that we can take here. But there's another Fireside Chat a month from now, and with a surprise guest. Do I know who this guest is, Angelina? Or is it a surprise to me too?
We were. We have a couple people that we may select. You may have a little panel. So until we get everybody confirmed,
that's right.
It's a surprise.
Okay. This is a placeholder. Okay.
And don't forget to listen to our Virtual World Society podcast with the wonderful Maxwell McGee, who has a lot of different guests in our industry. It's very exciting. And there will be some guests there in the next month that will also be speakers at the Meta Center Global Summit. And lastly, don't forget to become a member at virtualworldsociety.org. We really want you to join. We will be, I guess, after this meeting, we have decided we will be joining forces with the VRARA to make the world a better place.
That's it. You bet. Okay, thanks so much, everyone, for coming. Nathan, thank you for taking the time, and hopefully I didn't embarrass you too much with some of the questions.
That was great.
Put you on the
Great,
spot.
Tom. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Honor to be here.
So fun. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone, all of you who are able to come and participate with us, and hopefully we'll see you again next week, if not before. Remember these different events that are taking place with the VRARA, and you'll be hearing more about what's going to be happening in Europe, the number of activities going on there, and we'll always be here. So reach out and contact us personally, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.